everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you all are having a wonderful day, excellent week. Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where my lights die on me uh, right as we're about to jump on stream, and we talk Gundam, Gunpla, and gaming.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, and joining me as always, the Blue Gamer, Gundam Explainer, Adam Blue. How are you, my friend?
Doing good. Yeah, it's been a lonely week since GQuex ended because then I forgot that I would be streaming my reaction about it. And I wonder if that says something. But
Yeah, there's no
I
more Ma Tuesday, as they say.
but I do have this. I just started working on the Gelgoog
Oh yes, the
record. So
GM Goog.
yep. Yeah, so that the GM Goog, that's right there waiting for me. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the many things that I took issue with on GQucks. So this is an interesting one. There was some discourse going on around Twitter about Sayla being the heiress of
Yeah.
Xeon at the end of GQucks, and like someone had a pretty good take. Is they were like, man, this is actually like a really sad ending for her because it's not what she wanted. Like, and that was kind of where I landed. Is like ultimately the idea that Sayla would take over as the regent or leader of Xeon is such a fanboy type fantasy because her character never aspired to anything like that, you know?
Mhm.
Uh, and even in her military service, she never aspired to like a leadership role. It was always like,
She
how can I
met
be in service to those
Yeah.
around me?
That,
And so even like when you look at like the Origin manga, where there's that scene towards the end of the Origin manga where all the Xeon troops are like, Artesia, like we follow you, and it's like it's so cringy. Like
hmm.
it's
Yeah, I didn't read that, but I guess for me, is more of what we don't know. Like, I feel like there
mhm.
maybe could be a good story there because what if at the end of the day she is a puppet for some sort of reason? Or what if it's more of she is a willing puppet also for some sort of reason? Like, there's something that like that's what I feel is intriguing because yes, at the end of the day, that's just like a kind of a fanboy thing. But if then there was subtext, if there was something else going on further, especially if she started, especially because they show her starting with a light gun cannon and there's no Amuro. That whole thing is what's interesting. So
I Isn't that the most interesting thing about G-Quux is all the stuff that they didn't show?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But you went in depth, yesterday with your full,
oh
or
yeah,
when that was this morning, was the
yeah,
full,
this morning, yeah,
breakdown of G-Quux. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go over to Gundam Explained and check out, Adam's full-throated critique of G-Quux,
yeah.
which is much more articulate than our kind of off-the-cuff rants and remarks about these things.
Which, hey, I gotta say that helped. The fact that I've been able to kinda talk with you and chat, like, each week, like, I think it really helped, really be able to sift through and figure out how I feel about it, so
Yeah, yeah, there's 2 camps when it comes to that, right? Is it's like, you don't wanna be the kind of person that tries to arrive at consensus where it's like, "Okay, well, what are all the other Gundam fans thinking, and what's the approved opinion of this?"
right.
But it is interesting to kind of get your finger on the pulse of where everyone is at so that you can kind of understand, like, "Oh, maybe there is a perspective that I didn't see here that,
Yeah.
that I overlooked." But, you
Or
know
even some factoids, like, or little things you might have missed in it that kinda helps makes have something make more sense. Yeah, the GWash that I did with some of the supporters on Monday that went out, I learned a lot from that, especially seeing, like, how Ashley and Talos had really different from myself and, like, Ian, like, thoughts on some of the things, and that's kinda cool because people find joy in different things, and that's cool,
yeah,
so
people are gonna read into, they're gonna read into these things different perspectives. And honestly, I think that that might be let me know in chat, you guys, if this is something you'd like to see because Adam and I, it was a few days ago, but we were kind of exchanging ideas about some like deeper literary theories about some Gundam series. I'm speaking very cryptically right now because I don't want to give away, the lead on what, because
okay.
I was like, well, should I make this like a recorded scripted video where I discuss my thoughts about this particular series, Or should this be more of an off the cuff discussion where Adam and I like do a deep dive and we kind of come to the table with our own research because I think that that might be interesting as well. So let me know what you guys think. And don't do that thing where you just say both because that doesn't
Well,
help
you know
either of us.
what? Actually, what if it was more of we have a couple topics that we talk about during one of your episodes, and then from that we decide, okay, what would be good as a full-on video now that we've kinda talked through it a bit.
Now that would actually be yeah, because like you said, I think when you kind of bounce ideas off someone, it gives you the opportunity to refine your ideas and
Yeah.
kind of get them a little bit more concrete, and then that is what makes for a good, video
Mhm.
essay, if you will.
Exactly, because I'm telling you, my review, I wouldn't have felt so as confident if I hadn't been having these chats with you, I'm telling you, so
I'm happy to be of service.
heck yeah.
But yeah, shout out to you guys in chat, JamCalX, Ultronimus, Zeonic Shadow. Good to see
Oh,
you guys
hey.
this evening. Not a whole lot of exciting stuff going on the show today. Obviously, we know I'm going to go over it's July, so that means I made a Patreon perk for you guys that are Patreon members of the, Model Maniac and Principality of Polygons tiers. Those went out yesterday. Well, technically today at midnight, but I was a little late getting those up. But I'm going to share those here on stream. And then I do have to share, let's hop into some news because, as you guys know, this is an unofficial G Generation Eternal channel now.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a huge week for G Generation Eternal because it's the first week that they have added new true story missions, not just events, not just like map missions. These are true new story missions. 5 million downloads. So if you log in, you get 3,000 free diamonds. Very cool.
Oh, heck yeah.
Um, where is the news about our new series? Boom.
Okay.
Main stages added Gundam Seed Destiny and Gundam Char's Counterattack. Have you logged in and checked these out, Adam?
I am doing it right now as
As
we
well
speak,
you
so
should.
yeah.
Now, I was particularly blessed because obviously the one mobile suit that has been carrying me through my entire G Generation Eternal career has been the ultra rare Zazabi EX. That was the
Oh,
first ultra rare that I pulled. I maxed it out. It's fully like limit broken, all that good stuff. And so I was like, ooh, just wait until Char's counterattack comes out, and this is going to be like my main. And sure enough, I mopped the floor with Char's counterattack, finished it in like 20
oh,
minutes.
oh, I
Uh,
did not know you were gonna go you led up to that perfectly. Wow. I haven't even gotten to that part of the menu that shows it.
yeah, no, Char's counterattack, I finished in about 20 minutes, and then Seed Destiny was like 2 days. So I have finished both of these. I finished both dev diagrams. Um, I am a little offended. I'm going to be honest with you because the development tree for Char's counterattack is a little bit bigger than I think it probably should be, given the mobile suits that are in it.
Yeah.
Um, they have 2 different versions of the Psycho Doga, and neither one of them is the true Psycho Doga that you see, like, on the wiki or in the other G Generation games.
Really?
Um, and then this is the ultimate insult, is that the Rigazee is, like, a common rare. So, like, the Rigazee is one of the worst units in the game.
Oh, well, hey, if you're a new type, it'd be the best.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah, looking
old
at the
type
dev
problems,
diagram
right?
now. Um,
But
uh,
yeah, and then Seed Destiny, obviously a lot of fun. They did release some more new EX models. So like currently in the banner, you can get a High New Gundam EX or some kind of
oh, yeah.
impulse freedom something.
Yeah, one of those. One
One
of
of
those
those seed
impulses.
things.
Yeah.
But no, it's Shin's mobile suit. And honestly,
Oh, that's
this is
cool.
the best part is sure enough, I pulled that one. So
Oh,
I got the ultra rare Shin Asuka, which made playing through the Seed Destiny missions that much easier. Um, and if you are struggling with the Seed Destiny missions, then over in the like the challenge stages, if you go into like the I forget what it's called, the it's like the
The road, Eternal Road?
well, the Eternal Road is there, but also oh yeah, this is another unit that you can pick up is the
Oh,
ultra
that's
rare
cool.
Bright Noah and Rock Hyloom supporter. Very cool. But oh, what is that mission type called? Oh yeah, here you go. It's the Force Impulse is the
Oh,
ultra rare that you can get. The High New, obviously. What is that mode called? I don't remember.
oh,
It's
the
like
newer one?
it's the it's not a newer one. It's remember when the game first dropped and you had that challenge mode where you could fight the Red Gundam, and if you beat it, you got the
Oh,
Red Gundam.
yeah.
So same deal.
Wow.
You go in there and you fight against it's like the Destiny um it's a Destiny Gundam, but it's a super rare and you can unlock all stages of it, which are playable in Seed Destiny, which allows you to beat Seed Destiny a little bit easier. So yeah, a
Okay,
lot of new content coming out in G Generation Eternal. Again, I love that this game is being supported as much as it is.
I
Uh,
know.
and then again, like I'm not spending any money on it, just time. And
Well, okay, I wanna ask a quick question. What the Sazabi that you got,
yeah,
that you said you used to that is only that's not something that now you can get if you play through Shard's Counterattack. That's still an exclusive?
yeah, that one is still an ultra rare, like exclusive, like EX, but you can still get it because it's in the standard unit assembly. But this
Hmm,
is, I go back to like that idea that I was talking about, where if there's a suit that you want, they will make it available in the development
yeah.
diagrams. So you can get a Zazabi, you can get a Nightingale, you can get there's even a High New Gundam that you can unlock as part of the development tree. It's just not going to
Oh,
be the ultra rare one.
the High New is in the Shard's Counterattack development
Hmm.
tree? Whoa, okay, that's cool.
The High New, the Rigazi Custom is
Oh,
one of the
I
units in
like
there.
ooh,
So you can
Legacy
have
Custom.
your Mobile Suit Gundam AK-47.
Heck yeah, I love that one. I have the
So do
Metal
I.
Robot Spirit.
Yeah. So that goes to what I was saying is like the Char's counterattack development diagram has tons of units. It's got both versions of the Octoga, the Gune and the Quest version. It's got, the Alpha Zero, it's got the Psycho Doga, Gyaradoga Custom, Rigazi. The Rigazi back weapon system is its own unit, like as like a flight unit, but and
Interesting.
for some reason that's stronger than the Rigazi mobile suit. So
Hmm,
that's something I disagree with. But what are you gonna do?
yeah.
You get produced versions of the new Gundam as well.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
cool. Wow, that's
cool
cool. I
stuff,
didn't know that.
man. Lot of
Okay.
cool stuff.
Well, but it's funny because I saw that there was, like, 5 levels only.
Yeah, it's so short.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And yet somehow Char's counterattack being only 5 levels has 3 hard stages, whereas Seed Destiny only has 1.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
E
Well, hey, again, like you said, it's cool that we're getting this stuff. It's a lot.
Exactly. That's kinda how I feel about it,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I'm just lucky, but I keep pulling cool stuff, I'll tell you what. I actually, I
Yeah.
had 300 diamonds just from clearing, like, some random, like, cumulative missions, and I was like, "Ah, I'll use unit assembly," and pulled another Zazabi, but, like, I
Whoa.
I I'm already maxed out on Zazabis. So this is where it's like, man, I wish I could trade because
Yeah.
like, I would love to share the love and give someone a Zazabi, but instead, I dismantle it.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I can't believe how many good ones you get. The I've used up all my diamonds, and I haven't got any of the new stuff. So,
Man,
yeah,
that stinks.
I know. I don't know if they want me to be playing more. It's like,
Yeah, see, you
like, I
gotta
wonder how much there's a percentage of, how much are you actually playing?
Yeah, and you know what? They're probably tuning into my streams, and they're like, "This guy is, like, shilling this game really hard, like,
That's
we
it.
gotta keep
That's the
sending him
secret.
stuff."
Uh,
Oh, man. But, yeah, in other news, obviously, it is the start of a new month. Ooh, I went straight to the, cool fan art. We're gonna go back up here. So as you guys know, every month over on the Patreon, I provide some 3D models, that are print ready to, do cool stuff with, whether it's Gunpla, whether it's miniatures, which, once Gundam Assemble starts rolling, it'll be interesting to have some more of those minis, so that'll be something I'm working on. So this was part of a project. I'm not even sure if I ever announced that I was working on it. But again, shout out to Zionic Shadow and Principality New York for providing that Solari Zaku, because this was going to be the model involved with it. Um, I wanted to create a diorama of like an occupied city on Earth, and I was going to have the Solari Zaku. I was going to have a tiny screen with like a mini player. It was going to look like a jumbotron up on the side of a building, and it's playing the Garmazabi funeral speech. And there's like a bunch of soldiers kind of lining the streets, and like Xeon soldiers about to execute like a row of captured Federation troops. I printed out some water slide decals of like propaganda posters and like graffiti that I'm gonna put on the buildings and make it look
ooh.
like all bombed out and uh, just really downtrodden. But the thing is I didn't have people for the
Yeah, I mean,
for
and anyone around you is probably too big.
yeah, I can't stick my daughter in a diorama. So I was like, let's make some 3D printable Xeon and Federation troops. These are actually extracted from the GBO2 asset packs. I made some edits
Oh,
to the
wow.
models to make them a little bit more friendly for 3D printing and armed them with some rifles. Actually, I did some research on it, and if you look at like Gundam the Origin, Federation soldiers use like a bullpup rifle. It looks kind of like a FAMAS, like a French assault rifle. And then your Xeon soldiers, Garma and Char here, they're using some kind of AK variant. So like
Yeah,
probably
I
like
think
an AK-74 or something like that.
I might even have some right here. I have all my Xeon and Federation soldiers, but, uh no, the guns are in a different box. That would take too long. I would be gone too long for that to
Dang.
pay off. But dude, I
Ugh.
know what you mean. I always now, because I have these, when I see the weapons, like I can recognize, and they're pretty consistent in the series.
And that's why I wanted to replicate that. Like I didn't want to just give them all the same rifles and say, whatever. I wanted to give them distinct weapons that make them unique to their various factions.
Yeah, and even the pistols.
Yeah, down to the pistols, because like
Yeah.
I think Xeon uses like Lugers or whatever, and
Yeah, exactly. Too
um,
bad I didn't have
so
one
yeah, that
here.
is available now for the $5 and $10 Patreon supporters. It's a pack of I want to say like 16. Yeah, because there's 8 of each. 16 different soldier models. There's like crouching, there's shooting, there's guard duty. I even have like some that have been killed, so you can like, lay out some dead
Oh,
Federation
okay.
bodies. Um, but yeah, and I think later this evening we'll dive into what I did to make these models like 3D print friendly. So
Oh, cool, cool.
yeah. And speaking of, weapons that like different officers carry, I dropped this poll in the chat here, and I see how many results have we gotten. So 7 people have voted. Who has got the better drip? Who has better uniforms? I've been watching a lot of Gundam Wing lately, and I personally have to say, like Oz, their uniforms are amazing, like the double-breasted coats, the epaulettes that they've got going on. Um, I don't even know exactly what they're inspired by. Is it English? Is it French? It's a very
One of those sort of, yeah, the regal-esque things, which I don't know what started that. where it would be like space combat generals or that the military would dress in this manner. I don't know if that's from like the space Yamato type that the Japanese stuff in general.
Yeah.
Um, but I I I see what you're saying with the pull because really at the end of the day, this wing goes to the extreme. That's what I feel like its strengths are, is
Oh, yeah.
leaning into certain elements, and that's definitely part of it. It's
Yeah,
and then
there's a
I
lot of French inspiration, like, in the character naming and, like, just kind of
oh, okay.
the overall structure of, like, the governments and things like that that exist in the show. I've been watching a lot of it, and, like, what was interesting is I noticed that even in this show, a lot of, like, the Earth Sphere Alliance and Oz soldiers use, I forget what kind of machine gun it is, but it's a very particular, submachine gun that was popular, like, late World War II, and I was like, "Oh, that's" I mean, it's just cool that, like, even among different series, you have different inspiration drawn. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
according to the 8 votes here in chat, 38% say that Xeon has more drip and 62% say Organization of the Zodiac. And yeah, I mean, as cool as Xeon uniforms are, like, maybe I need to have my Gundam Grognard card taken away because I don't know, man, like, the capes are cool. I love the capes, but, like, I don't know, man.
The
Something about
reason
those.
yeah, the reason I go with Xeon is because it seems eh, realistic for as extreme as it is in a way, you know?
Yeah,
It
because they
it's a
are
little more
elevated,
grounded.
like, they're
Yeah,
they're ostentatious, right?
yeah.
Like, they've got that, like, Hugo Boss style, there's no reason for a soldier to be this decorated.
But it's
Um,
still that drab green, it's kind of
yeah.
just like it's not like it's pleasing color, it's not like blues or reds, it's just big green, so it still has that
Mhm.
root, in the military
No,
style. Yeah.
absolutely. And so and the reason I always go to Wing is because, like, so in the original Gundam and Gundam Wing, those are like the only 2 Gundam series that really have true, like, military uniforms, because if you look at things like Seed and Double O, those are very, like, sci-fi, you know, like
I see what you mean.
like, let's
Like
see what the Zaft uniform looks like here. Um, I mean, this is not excuse me. If it'll load here. Yeah, the Zaft uniform is very, like,
sci-fi.
heavy sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean,
There's no
yeah, just the way
yeah.
they do the shoulders and sort of the flare is kind of mimicking that, but yeah, it's sci-fi, and that's a very good call out when it comes to designing faction uniforms in the military sense, like through even not just Gundam, but other stories. How have they evolved? And when did it start becoming all sci-fi like, you know? Um,
Yeah, exactly, and I think what it makes it kind of in a way, it almost makes it harder to delineate who the good guys and bad guys are, because if you think about, like,
yeah,
comparing the Federation and Xeon, nobody looks at the Federation uniforms and says, like, "Oh, those are obviously the bad guys."
right. Exactly,
Like,
because it kinda has a standard general authoritative force
yeah, they
look.
look like bureaucrats, kind of,
Mhm.
like, neutral,
Yeah.
but yeah, when you get into, like, sci-fi uniforms, it's hard to tell who the good guys and bad guys are because they they can represent whatever. Like, there's no grounding allusion to existing stereotypes and tropes, and put it that way.
Yeah, would you
Um
say like, would that be the case? Ayug was interesting because Ayug almost didn't really have anything. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and that kinda spoke to their ragtag assembly, is that
Yeah,
that they didn't have a solid uniform. It was like, they're all Federation uniforms technically, but they're all off color, they're all
yeah,
nobody's like regulation.
exactly. Yeah, there's not uniform look to yeah, that's interesting. Um, But then I wonder, even yeah, if it's funny because Full Frontal, that's like kind of full on going, if that's still considered French, maybe there's another route.
Yeah, because he does have like the double-breasted coat going on,
Yeah.
um, and the high collar. That is a
Yeah.
unique look. Yeah, that's a good call out actually, because it does look like a blend of, your
Wing.
Xeon and Oz.
Yeah, because I would almost say this guy wouldn't exist if it, the way he looks if it wasn't for Wing, because I think that people like, people kinda like the look of that guy, and
Yeah,
it's pretty much Char.
right. It's Wingshar.
Yeah.
And then like let's look at Angelo, because Angelo uh has a similar look to him, right?
Oh, yeah,
Except it's
yeah, yeah,
green.
yeah. Yeah, and, that maybe that's more related to the sleeves, you know?
Mhm.
Maybe that is part of that because obviously they're sleeves.
I do like the sleeve accent on
I
these
do too.
guys.
I like how
Um,
it's part of the name and part of the
shout out Simply New Type, dudes in a marching band. Yes, they do
yeah.
have a Welcome to the Black Parade look to them. Oh man.
And there's that show, Legend of Galactic Heroes, that was in the '80s, and that was
Yeah.
very huge space military. Um, wow, good job with yeah, just
Well, it's like I always see it, abbreviated as, LTGH. But yeah, I mean, and there's so much to love about Legend of the Galactic Heroes, right? Because like I
yeah,
love the idea that they have boarding parties that are armed with like practically medieval weapons, because they
yeah,
know that they can't like fire firearms on a ship at risk of, depressurizing the ship that they're on. So it's
yeah,
like we talk about this a lot when it comes to the world building behind Gundam and other series that are grounded in that same way, where they always have a reason that explains why something is the way it is. So it's like,
yeah,
they wanted to have these kind of intense, violent melee fights in the story. And so the way that they explain that is through, you know, from just a basic physics standpoint, you don't want to be firing guns in space,
yeah,
generally speaking. And so obviously, you kind of take a step back and you embrace these like much more violent melee weapons like axes and things like,
yeah.
um,
That was a cool part. I never saw it in the original, but in the remake,
yeah.
it was a cool scene.
And likewise with like mobile suits in Gundam, is it's like the Minovsky particles go a long way in explaining why mobile suits gained notoriety and popularity. Whereas like in a lot of the AUs, it doesn't make sense because there isn't that Minovsky particle.
Right. The kind of established rule to it, which was funny because I was playing Mecha Break today, and I wanna say I recalled when I was starting up a mission, one of the characters was like, dispersing a certain particle, but they worded it differently, and they didn't say Minovsky. I wanna
That's
say I heard
funny.
that. That's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, the plot particle, right?
Yeah, there you go. Plot particle.
Um, but yeah, so like I said, not a ton. Yeah, I definitely wanted to share the Patreon update with you guys, and of course the G Generation Eternal stuff. And then, as a result of the of working on these models, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, and we've talked about this before, just like the differences in complexity when it comes to 3D modeling for video games versus 3D modeling for 3D printing. And as you guys know, I use a lot of video game rips for 3D printing. However, most people have the misconception where it's like, oh, I can just take a 3D model from a video game and print it and it'll be good. And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, that is probably the worst thing you can do, actually, for a lot of reasons. And we'll talk about that in just a second here. So I did fire up Blender here. This is actually the file where I've got our Gundam guys let's
That is cool.
hide this window for just a second. So, we've got our standard fixed pose here. So this is a running pose, but it's worth noting that I didn't take this pose because it was running, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. We've got a standing and firing pose, we've got a prone firing pose, crouched, running, we've got behind cover, which I think is a neat
Yeah.
option, crouched and firing, and then we get into some of our Xeon guys like running. We've got crouched, prone, firing, all that good stuff. But again, the reason that I have these running and firing guys is not because we have a running and firing pose in the pack. In fact, the pose that you actually get is if we come down the dope sheet of the timeline, like where the animations are stored. I'm going to skip ahead about 80 frames here, and this is the model that you get is
Oh,
Federation guy
um,
killed on the ground.
wow. Uh, but that's great. I gotta do this because I was just, it was actually Alan Mitchell who sent me a, video of someone that made a 1/18th scale new Gundam with the cockpit opening. I was like, "But I have 1/18th scale figures, and I would love to put, that in." But, I've got so many of the different scenes from Gundam set up. I need to use these because there's this thing with I like Gundam and I like, the robots and all that, the mechs. But when they're on the shelf, there's nothing necessarily in context with it to show off why I like it because it's a mech. So I need
Right.
to start building my shelving into more diorama pieces to really pull off what I like about
Yeah,
this
because
stuff.
it's hard to determine the scale when you are like when you're just looking at the Gunpla by itself. Like, let me grab an example here.
Okay. Yeah, curious what others think about that too. But it is hard to just at will make a diorama.
That's true, and that's where it's like sometimes you have to kind of make a self-contained piece, and we've talked about this with like some of the guys from IPMS, where it's like there's a difference between the diorama category and the on base category, and like sometimes on base isn't necessarily a diorama. It could be.
Yeah.
Um, and we've seen a lot of pieces where, like, I think Gunpla Luke's piece, where it's the Zeta that is like rescuing that pilot, that is
Oh
more of
yeah.
a diorama because there's a
Yeah.
story behind it. But like, if you were to just have, a mobile suit that has a pilot on it, that would be more like an on base. So like, this I would say is a more of an example of an on base because we've got my 1/100 scale Bawu and the 3D printed uh, Glemmy Toto. I don't even know if this is going to show up on camera, but
Wow.
here he is.
Hey, you tell it's a small dude.
Yeah, but that is to illustrate the scale of the mobile suit, right? Like,
Yeah, I like that. That man, I need to go back to all of the kits I've built that came with people, and I just need to paint them and then stick them on.
exactly. And do what I did and put magnets on the feet so that you can
Yes.
attach them to various accoutrements around.
Yep.
But yeah, so these guys that I design, oh, well, no, I didn't design them. I guess I technically posed them and made some edits to the models, but these guys are 1/144th scale. You can resize them. I think if it's like if you increase their scale by, is it like 1/16th or something like that? Like 1 and 16%, then that'll make them 1/100th scale if you need that. But I just love having like a ground war set.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. I have it just a few from the Robot Spirits. Oh wait, the MS Team accessory set that with the radar track, and it came with a couple of the characters that are that small, but
yeah,
um,
they're tiny.
yeah, they
Um,
are.
and then I mean, you think about like some of the ships that you can buy. Like this is the
Oh,
1/1700th scale Rulula.
mhm.
Um, I wanted the Char's counterattack version. Instead, I got the unicorn version. Kill me.
Oh.
Um, But like, 1/1700th scale mobile suits are actually roughly the same size as a 1 to 144 scale humanoid.
Oh, really?
Just about. I mean, they're like a little bit shorter, but
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
like if I were to print mobile suits at that scale, they would be in scale with the ships. But again,
Wow.
those are very tiny,
Yeah,
and
that would
very
be, and
difficult to paint.
that's why I haven't jumped on buying these ships just because they're a little smaller than I'd like. Either go micro machines or make them a good size, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So but yeah, I mean that's the fun stuff, and this is the kind of thing that I think 3D printing is perfect for, is to really fill out these environments. And I even put in the Patreon like, hey, what kind of other figures would you like to see? Ultronymous actually commented on there, which I appreciated. Like, yeah, it might be cool to see civilians at that scale, or like,
Oh,
other, because, like, obviously, Bandai
scientists,
has figures that
engineers.
they make. Um, these are, yeah, the 1 to 144 scale figures. Most of them are just either space engineers or ground type engineers. Like,
That's cool.
they either have a helmet and a clipboard, or a normal suit and a clipboard. The one that I think is actually a cool, like, dynamic pose, and I don't know if this is gonna show up on the stream at all, but it's one of the, like, normal suit pilots holding one of the little, like, handles. So, like, if you remember in Zeta Gundam, they would have the little handles that
Oh,
pull them
yeah.
through the hallways because they're in, like, a zero G environment. So it's like they have the little handle attached to them so that you can, like, kind of,
Oh,
and
that's
that would
cool.
be, I mean, I would love to add that to a diorama. Somebody like that's basically horizontal, like, parallel to the ground because they're being pulled on one of those handles would be pretty cool.
That's what I love about the Master Grade 2.0 Mark II, because it came with that
Yeah.
base that had the thing, and then it came with the, like, 3 characters, and it had the wires that you can connect them to as if they're floating around.
Dude, that, like, we need more
That.
figures, more like accessories like that. I mean,
Mhm.
shoot, even over here on Twitch, 16 times a second says that they stopped putting real grade pilots in with the Zeong. Which is true. Like,
Oh.
I miss having the little, like, in real grades, they used to have pilots that came
Yeah.
with the mobile suits,
That's funny, I
which is a
guess the
shame.
last real grade, yeah, the last couple real grades, the RX-78 2.0 did, I guess, didn't have one. Um, Epion, yeah,
Nope.
that's right. Wow.
And a lot of them, I think, deserve to have 2 figures. One of the things that I thought was kind of a bummer about the Master Grade Zeta Gundam Ver-Ka is that it was so, you know, Hajime Katoki made it so anime accurate that it was anime accurate specifically to Zeta Gundam, not Double Zeta. And so it comes with a Camille figure. The Master Grade
Oh.
2.0 comes with like an androgynous figure that if you wanted to paint it to look like Ruluka, you could.
Oh,
Um, because the figure has a helmet on, you can't really see. The body type
it's just
is
basic
very just
body.
generic, like
Okay.
spacesuit. But, like, I don't see a reason why the Zeta Gundam shouldn't come with both a Camille and a Raluca, and the
Yeah.
Gundam Mark II come with an M-Machine and, yeah, heck, an M-Machine, a Camille, and an L. Like,
Honestly, they should all come with stands if they don't, and they should all come with things you attach to the stand to make it like it's in a hanger. I mean, they really should just go all out with that. Don't
yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about, like, especially this year with a lot of the releases that they've been doing, they are including a lot more accessory parts, things like, the
oh,
alternative heads for the, Zigok from Seed Freedom,
yep,
obviously all
that's
the
right.
accessories that come with the Psycho Gundam Mark II.
Yep.
So they are, like, making strides to making the Gunpla more anime accurate, anime friendly, but the things that I think are getting left behind is like you can recreate scenes like, oh, well, you've got the Psycho Gundam Mark II head that's battle damaged. Okay, but like where's the Puru 2 figure that is standing, like that's
Yep.
controlling the Psycho Gundam Mark II with her mind. Like, uh, there's just certain aspects of that are missing that hopefully I'm trying to fill the gap by
Yeah,
providing
exactly.
things like these. Um, and I can show you like obviously I'm a big fan of using these like random textures because it gives you an idea of like where the different parts of the model are.
Mhm.
Obviously this model comes in several parts. There's like the body, the hands, the face, and the helmet are all different parts. Um, if we come in here and look at a textured view, they're obviously missing some textures, but let me see if we can pull some out of a hat here. That doesn't look like the right one. I want to say, is it material 11? No, I know I've got some materials in here for these guys. Just bear with me here for a moment. Material 9. No,
Looks
I'm
just
like,
like what I was doing yesterday, but I was in Unreal Engine messing around with it. It was my first time really diving in that much into something, and it reminded me of all these tools that I'm seeing you use.
yeah, I'm excited that you are diving more into these tools. So yeah,
Yeah,
as you can see here, this is like what the texture looks like from.
that's
Um,
cool.
let's just go ahead and add like a little weapon black here. These are what the textures from the video game look like, and to be honest with you, the textures obviously do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to the detail on a lot of these
Mm,
figures. Like, so this is where there there's some work to be done because, like, for instance, when you look at this figure, the video game model does not have this raised texture here where the what do you call
oh,
that?
yeah.
The regalia, the Xeon.
Yeah, that sounds like it, yeah. But I
um,
see what you're saying. That
so
shading is part of the texture?
yeah, so the texture is it's basically it would be a flat chest otherwise. And so
Yeah.
what I did
Wow.
is I went in here and I actually added the geometry and traced the shape of the design and then extruded it out in order to create that. And what that
Wow.
does is obviously it's gonna make it a little easier when you go in to paint it because you're gonna have that raised surface that you can rub the edge of your paintbrush on to create that design.
Mm.
Whereas if it were just a flat surface, then you'd be basically freehanding it.
True. So good job then on doing that. I didn't realize, yeah, the effort that had to be put into that.
Thank you. And
No.
then as far as like modifiers and things like that go, let me actually I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hide all of these things. Here's what I'm actually gonna do, and just don't let me save this. I'm gonna delete all of the posed figures because obviously those are the ones that I re-imported them after I added the animations in Mixamo, which obviously Mixamo is a fantastic tool, allows you to do some pretty amazing stuff with free animation and posing and rigging as far as like rigging models. Not so great for like mechanical models. I wouldn't use it to rig a mobile suit, but I use it to
Mm.
rig humanoid characters all the time.
I couldn't find a whip animation, like
Oh, you couldn't find a whip?
a whip attack animation, which that might be too specific, so I just went with the punch, but then I couldn't get it to work. That's where I got stuck in it.
No.
But hey,
Um,
I'm just glad I did it.
let me scale this guy up and see if it'll give us a little bit more of a clear picture of what we're looking at here. So this is the like raw model um before I exported it in order to rig it and animate it. Um and so like if we look at the body here, obviously I had the texture loaded so that I could then trace the trace that design and then extrude it out. But I've also got a couple of modifiers on here. And let me show you guys kind of how these modifiers work because I can turn them off in the viewport and you'll kind of see the effect that they have. So this is what the model looks like basically straight out of the game. Again,
Uh,
obviously there's the geometry that I added on the chest, but like you can see the
okay.
polygons of where it's like squared off
Okay.
and it's got
Yeah,
like that video game look to it.
that's
Um
funny that it's hidden so well with the texture.
yeah, so like, you know, when basically when you're playing GBO2, you're seeing this low poly character model, but when you slap a texture on it, you really don't see it as much. And then even more when you turn on like, okay, let's
Yeah.
shade it smooth instead of flat. And all of a sudden, like, makes a huge difference. So when we do flat shading, you get to see the more of the geometry that you're looking at. And then when you take the textures away, it's very apparent that you're looking at like a very low poly model.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I did was add a oh, wait a second. This is just the armature mod. No, so the first thing I did was actually bevel. I thought that I did a bevel modifier, but actually it turns out that I did it a much more destructive way, which is going into the edit mode. And then this is a trick that I learned is what I used to do. you know, you know those memes where it's like, you know, the old me, the new me. The old me would do this thing where, oh my gosh, this the camera is out of control. So I apologize if you're getting motion sickness because I am. Um, the old me would select edges. Like you see all these blue edges where those blue edges are actually the seams of the UV map, which what that means is that that's where there's a cut where the texture is applied to the model. So like the straps on the shoulders are cut out and then it's like the straps are isolated away from the rest of the texture of the model. And that allows you to kind of layer your textures a little bit more accurately.
Hmm.
What that also means is it creates some sharp edges. And if we were to 3D print it, we would want those sharp edges, right? We wouldn't want the whole thing softened. So, like, if we were to turn on our subdivision surface, the subdivision surface modifier is, I cannot tell you how important it is in the work that I do because what it does is it takes a low poly model and it adds geometry to it. It just packs in more and more detail, but it smooths everything out because it doesn't contextually know what is supposed to be a hard edge. So, what I used to do is I would select hard edges like this and I would go in and set the crease of that edge to 1. And what that does is it like basically tells Blender, hey, when you're subdividing this surface, you keep that edge hard. You don't soften it up. There's a lot of reasons why this is easy and it works, but then a lot of reasons that it doesn't. So, for instance, if I were to import this into Unity or Unreal Engine, like you've been working in Atom, those programs don't have a crease modifier. So the only thing they would see is the subdivision surface modifier. And so if I were to import this model into one of those programs, it would just be a muddy, like smooth mess. So the other way that you can add those like hard edges when you're using the subdivision surface modifier is to add a bevel. And a bevel basically just takes a hard edge and then separates it a little bit to like you guys know what a bevel is. It's like when you have
Yeah.
beveled text, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody's used to that filter in Photoshop, right? Like, oh yeah, I want to add a bevel.
Right.
Um, and so if you add that bevel, what happens is it adds like with because there's that extra geometry there, the subdivision surface modifier doesn't smooth it as much as it smooths everything else. So there's two ways you can do that. You can either go into the modifier menu and add a bevel modifier, which will add a bevel to every hard edge on the model. Or what I did is you come up here to the select menu and you select sharp edges. So by doing this, what you're going to see is you look, the straps, the patch on the arm, the emblem on the chest, all of these
Yeah.
different hard edges have been selected, and so then all I do is come in here and hit bevel, and I can bevel them. Well,
Oh,
obviously this is a little too much of bevel. I add like 0.025 millimeters of bevel, and that's just enough to keep the edges sharp when you add the subdivision surface modifier. So that
good.
sped up my workflow like 100 times over. I can't even tell you like how much time that saved me.
That's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Yeah, it looks good.
I think that it turned out pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and especially printing at this scale, we're not looking for like perfect textures. It's just enough to have that detail. Because like, I mean, even if you look at like the model of Glemmy Toto that I did here,
Yeah.
he's got boots, he's got the skirt. I did go to the detail of like embossing his the design on his chest so that I could paint that a little bit more easily.
And and I forgot, did you get that as a model from something, or did you kind of just make him in that based on
This
reference?
one I actually made from scratch.
That's awesome.
um,
That's awesome.
Let me see if I would love to show you guys that to like if you wanted a comparison between like my work
Yeah.
versus something that, all right, we're not going to save. Like I said, I don't want to save the fact that I deleted all of this stuff out.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a figure that I modeled from scratch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And let's do this. We're gonna get rid of the face orientation. Um, and he has some weird features. He's not exactly perfect, but
Nah,
obviously I
but at that scale, I mean, that's awesome.
yeah, and that's where I was at, as I was like, okay, I just want to make sure that he looks good at 1 to 100 scale.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I am not the best 3D modeler in the world, but I think that this, and I think let's see, I can show you the reference image. Oh, did I delete out all the reference images? Not all of them, it looks like. So, like,
Oh,
for
okay, I
instance,
see.
there's a 3/4 image that I used here to trace his
Wow.
hair, and then I used, like, this boy's hair as, like, a model because I couldn't find a straight image of Glemmy.
That is pretty neat. I didn't even know that you could do it like that.
That's a plane. But yeah, I can tell that this was the image that I used for most of the, like, costume design, but that image I must have deleted because it's missing from the model.
Uh,
But, and this is actually the 3rd version. I wonder if I actually, let me load up one of the previous versions of this. Don't save. Um, nope, this has an action base in
which
it.
that's cool.
Yeah, who everyone needs an action base.
I feel like oh, and someone's embedded in it. Was that the Manhattan Project?
Exactly. So this is the posed Glemmy. I'm not sure how he ended up in this file, but yeah, that's the pose that I have the figure in when I printed him.
That's neat.
And again, I just embossed that design a little bit so that you can just
Yeah.
again for ease of painting it. Let's not save this. So I apparently have 3 different Glemmy files saved on my computer.
But isn't that
Um,
normal for any sort of digital artist? There's always the final.
yeah, final.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a very cool project making that. And again, the only reason I even did that was because I was trying to enter
Right.
the Hobbytown model contest, and I was like, "Ooh, I need a Glemmy figure to go on my Bawu."
I remember that. That was cool. And, oh, yeah, are they having the yeah, that is that going on again in your area?
No, actually, it was this month last year, but I
Yeah,
think because
Gundam base.
the Gunpla Builders World Cup is, like,
Oh,
August 15th, so they're really
oh,
not. Yeah, there's
I
not
see.
gonna be a lot of time between. They did have, a huge Gunpla competition, 2 months ago that I wish we could have gotten,
Oh,
uh, Nickel Models back on to discuss, but I think that was around the time that my daughter was born, so it was like,
oh
"Ugh,"
yeah, yeah.
I it's hard to think, like, can you believe that I took basically a month hiatus
I
from.
know. I know, that was crazy, although, yeah, that went by it did go by fast, though. It
To
did
me,
go
it
by
felt like it went by fast, but I don't know, like, how did you feel about, like.
it was it seemed like it came by faster than I was expecting. Because then I remember we wanted to have a proper show, and you had a guest, and then I was able to have Kyle on, before that, so it was kinda neat how, uh, all that kinda turned out. But, that's cool because I feel like we've been pretty consistent except when big things, and I think, like, that is an example, having a kid,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Believe me, if I thought that I were capable of streaming, at that time, I definitely would have. And even then, I look back at like some of the stuff that I have not been able to finish as a result of like that. Obviously I'm still kind of getting back into the groove of things. I was supposed to have launched my store by now. That has
Oh,
kind of been pushed back a little bit as a result of, these fun changes around the house and getting used to having 2 kids running around here. Or, well,
yeah.
I guess one
Oh.
is running around, the other one's just kinda laying around for now.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, man. Yeah, that's so much to do with where a lot of times a lot of these side projects do, become secondary,
yeah, uh, but I did see, actually 2 days ago, this is the last thought before we leave, is 2
Yeah.
days ago, I saw someone else, did the project that I'm basically doing, right? Like, so we talked about this a couple weeks ago, the Ilfrith
Oh,
pre-production type that I'm putting NeoPixel LEDs in. Somebody on YouTube. Guy's only got 59 subscribers, so
wow.
I'll
It's
post
always
about it.
crazy.
Yeah, 59 subscribers and has like 1,000 views because he did a Calibarn that has the RGB NeoPixel lights in it, and it does all the things that I'm trying to do, where it's like it goes from permit score 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
8, and then 10. Um, he did some really cool stuff that I think, but obviously some stuff that I'm going to do that he didn't do that, I think
Oh,
will set my
interesting.
project apart from his. So, but
Yeah.
it's always good to like, it's one of the reasons that I love Pencil Nights is that he and I have very different approaches to how we handle these types of projects and how we apply the different electronic components.
Yeah.
And there's always something that you can learn from someone else. So
Yeah,
I was
always.
very inspired. That basically lit a fire under me. I'm like, "Well, I gotta finish this now."
That's cool. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But, that is all I have for this evening, I think. Was there anything
Yeah.
else that I wanted to share with you guys before we go?
It's like I feel like it's like I felt like last week there was so much to talk about. Hathaway,
Yeah.
G-Quux, and then this week yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, now I'm kind of out of my G-Witch phase, and now obviously,
Oh,
uh dude, so it's awesome, like, I don't know if you have Hulu, but Hulu has, like, all of Gundam right now. It's got The Origin, they've
oh,
got Gundam Wing, Double
yeah,
O, Unicorn.
yeah.
So, yeah, if you guys are Hulu subscribers and you are missing Gundam now that G-Quux is over, hop on over to Hulu and start watching Gundam Wing again. I'm probably going to go on tirades for the next couple weeks about how Gundam Wing is this misunderstood genius that
I get it. I wouldn't disagree, but you should watch Double O.
well,
And
I guess I
this
don't have an excuse now, huh?
wait, because did you ever see the movie?
No, no, and you lost me at Aliens.
Okay, because it's not even that. I don't wanna just explain it, but there's something that
Isn't that
happens
your
at the
job?
huh?
Isn't that your job as the Gundam
I know,
explainer?
right? And you might have heard about this before, but there's something at the beginning of the movie that I think is pretty amazing how it sets up everything. It's the most, I feel like, self-aware Gundam.
Hmm.
I think the
More than
aliens
G
too.
Gundam?
Huh?
More than G Gundam? Because I always consider G Gundam as like the most self-aware.
Yeah, I think they share some of the same qualities, and it has to do with something that happens at the beginning, and then aliens both kind of have an alien thing to it.
Okay.
What just went out. Okay, there we go. But
Well,
yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
because
written
Double
off
O's on there.
Evangelion or Double O yet, but I'm
Oh,
gonna continue to talk about how
Evangelion.
awful they both are.
Of course, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
But seriously, yeah, that's a good shout out about Hulu. So yeah,
Yeah,
guys. Yeah.
Hulu's the home of Gundam right now, at least, as far as streaming goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you hanging out and, kind of diving into some of these neat little 3D, projects that I've got going on.
Yeah.
As I said before, go check out Adam's full-throated, critique of GQucks.
Yeah.
Maybe I should make one too.
I think you
Maybe we
should.
should.
I think you should.
But yeah, we'll definitely have more of those types of discussions. I want to do more deep dives on individual series and like I hate the term retrospective, but that's always like the
Yeah.
I think that
Agree.
you and I have a much more nuanced take than retrospective. It's not just like, ooh, this was cool. It's like this was cool because it was an allusion to this real life event that inspired like we try to get a little bit more granular
Yeah.
with these.
Because it's the stuff that grabs me, you know? It's
Exactly.
yeah.
We're always looking for connections,
Yeah. Yeah,
like
that's
new
right.
types.
Yeah, that's
But I hope you guys have a good rest of your evening and a great rest of your week.
yeah,
Come by and see us tomorrow for the Gundam Explained show,
that's
8 p.m.
right.
Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Did I do that right?
You did. You did.
Take it easy, y'all. Thank you so
Alright.
much.
See y'all.